Good evening, folks, and here's a wonderful little message from our good man, Rian Johnson. As reported by Deadline, Rian Johnson says he's still in talks for more Star Wars, and that angry Last Jedi tweets helped inspire Knives Out. Well, what a great message from the director everyone loves these days, the man with seemingly no eyebrows and just a lot of love in his heart to be inspired to make movies again. And that's an interesting way to turn all that wonderful, wonderful commentary that people give him and just fuel his desires and make good art, or at least make art in general that we can criticize again. I'm all for people that are down in their luck coming back up. I love the from rags to riches stories, or people struggling out of their hole. Always good to hear about that. So he believes, or at least he's stating that the Jedi tweets, the Last Jedi tweets that people who are angry over it, helped inspire Knives Out, which is very, very strange because if you know anything about writing fiction, it comes from somewhere deep within you, not from outside. Like you already have an idea in your head. I guess outside can fuel you. That's probably not the best fuel for a murder mystery story. Murder mystery is a very intricate, logical, it's very difficult to write, let's just say. So you don't really want to have too much emotion to get in your way. And there's one thing we know in The Last Jedi, logic is not a strong suit, or it's not the major player of the story, of the plot, of the characters, of really anything to do with the movie. So let's see what he has to say about the Last Jedi angry tweets that can inspire Knives Out. Anyone who's on Twitter these days, God bless you, because it's rough waters out there, but there's also wonderful stuff about it. Yeah, just love, hate, it's all wonderful. Johnson said Saturday at Deadline's The Contenders, Los Angeles. That's why we're all still on it, I guess. That's one of the things Knives Out engages with, the current state of online culture. Cool, okay. Whether you made a Star Wars movie or you have a cooking show, whatever you're doing on there, someone's going to be screaming at you about it probably. Let's put it on a screen in a way we can all maybe have a laugh about it. Okay, he's turning something seemingly negative or sometimes helpful and constructive into another movie. I don't know how that works, but again, I'm not the man with the plan here. The very serious plan. Johnson added he is still in talks with Lucasfilm to make more Star Wars films. Good God help him. Though had no news about them. We're still engaged with Lucasfilm and we'll wait and see. I wonder if he does in fact make another Lucasfilm production. I mean, is it going to be the opposite of nihilistic and crazy? It's going to be like happy romance, maybe. Everything makes sense. Everything's just cheerful and romantic comedy and lightsabers, maybe. I could see that happening. We're still engaged with Lucasfilm and we'll wait and see. No updates on it at this moment, but yeah. And the whole speculation was that because D&D from Game of Thrones fame left, that it's because, well, they're already looking at Johnson, so it's like, yeah, why would we spend so much more money? We already have this. We already have the golden boy with the plan and the lack of eyebrows. Inspired by the All-Star Murder Agatha Christie adaptations, I'm assuming the BBC adaptations of David Suchet, not the local one or the recent one. Johnson wanted to set one in modern day and all the technological accoutrement that entails. It's a very specific French term. That meant Knives Out had to incorporate modern technology in the people who use it. See, this is not necessarily a good thing. When you look at the BBC Sherlock, like the first season, they used, even the first episode, they used texting and all sorts of other techniques of showing the text on the screen as it was typed and other things like that. That was kind of cute. Yeah, it modernized it, but it didn't help really much to do with the detection of the mystery. In fact, it's probably more of a crutch because you're now forced to use text messages and phone messages and various forms of communication using your smartphones. So it's not like you don't need that. You don't need technology to tell a story, or at least tell a murder mystery story or detective fiction story. It's probably going to confuse matters and make things more confusing to people who don't know technology, or say, oh, if only I knew how WhatsApp worked, or I only knew how Twitter worked, I would have, figured solve this out better. Like that sort of thing is an extra layer, which is compounding the deduction and breadcrumbing that the story has to provide to the audience to some degree, or else your audience is going to be lost. What we try and do is place it in a modern day. That for me meant not just skinning it with cell phones. I think that actually, honestly, if you just skin it with cell phones, that would have been fine. Modern cars and music. That meant actually plugging it into 2019. Who knows what that means? We do character types who are slight caricatures of the type Agatha Christie used to do, but with people who, for better or worse, you could only meet in 2019. Well, that's interesting. When you're talking about Agatha Christie, I'm immediately jumping to Poirot, her Miss Marple series, maybe Tommy and Tuppence. That's a little less known series of hers. So there's always usually the rich guy, the vacationing couple, the widow. I mean, not in every story. It's decidedly British. So you really have to know what was happening post World War I, and the fashion and the music and the events of the time to really get a feel. Even when I think back to the books I've read, the shows I've seen of Poirot and Marple, I can't really place archetypes and caricatures very well. So I'm not sure what he was getting at. I did see the trailer for Knives Out. It looked fine. And it had a bunch of specific characters who acted certain ways, but I wouldn't really place the characters in a Poirot setting. I'd place the setting, like the mansion. It's maybe it's a closed room mystery or a locked door mystery. You have the eccentric detective. He might have an assistant, and there's a bunch of eccentric witnesses or people with motives. That's about it. I'd have to actually watch the movie to see the connections, but I don't see it yet. Again, I'm willing to give every media a chance. I love detective fiction. Knives Out could be great. I know it got good reviews at TIFF when it was showcased here a month or two ago. So Star Wars, probably no. I probably wouldn't care. But murder mystery, I love Brick, so I thought if he could do a noir, pulpy, modern day telling of a noir, he could probably do a pretty decent telling of an Agatha Christie. But again, Agatha Christie's are not all the same quality. They're good. They're one of the best, but you can tell as the years went by, her stories were a lot different. And the quality and the complexity suffered. But who knows? Maybe Ryan is gonna showcase that he can actually do murder mysteries in the modern day. Probably not the same level of a BBC Sherlock or a BBC Poirot, but maybe a bit more American. I don't know. I'm willing to give him a shot, just because I love murder mysteries. I love the genre. What's the way you put it? Hate the game, not the player. Or love the game, not the player. Same idea. I love the genre. Don't really care who makes it. Don't really care their mindset. Don't really care where they come from, what pedigree they've got. But I do know he did make Brick, and that was pretty decent. And I'd like to see what he can do with this kind of hopefully golden age style whodunit mystery a la Christie. Why not? Thanks, guys, for listening. Have yourself a great day, and watch out for your eyebrows.